Right after that airport incident, Eddie Hearn's reaction said everything. You could tell he was genuinely stunned. And for good reason. What happened wasn't courage, it was pure desperation. Moses stayed calm and carried himself with respect, while Dillian threw away his credibility in one reckless decision. Instead of settling anything the right way inside the ring, Whyte chose to create chaos outside of it. And even Eddie couldn't really justify that kind of behavior.
I'm not saying abandon the fight. I'm just going, not for me, mate. I don't want to watch it. So, like...
And right after that shocking airport moment, Eddie Hearn couldn't even hide his reaction. The look on Eddie's face said it all. This wasn't strength, and it definitely wasn't tough guy energy. It was desperation. Moses stayed composed and carried himself with respect, while Dillian threw away his image in a single reckless decision. Because instead of handling business the right way inside the ring, Whyte chose to bring the drama outside of it. And even Eddie couldn't spin that into something defensible.
Umar, and I think I've just been piecing it together today. I haven't been reporting on it this morning. I'm just slowly...
And that's when Derek Chisora stepped in with his take. And if anyone understands chaos in boxing, it's him. Chisora tried to downplay it and take some heat off the situation, but the reality still showed itself. Dillian Whyte isn't made for these moments anymore. At the airport, just like in the ring, he unraveled the second things stopped going his way. And the wild part is, Moses didn't even have to do anything. His calm energy exposed everything. The difference between a man who stays composed under pressure and a man who collapses when he can't control the situation.
Hey, listen, he got caught the head on the temple. Yeah. And then after that, it was a long night for him. I'm a bit sad because I didn't want him to go like that.
And then Johnny Nelson went even further, and his point hit harder than any punch. Nelson didn't just react to the airport incident. He exposed what it really represents. Because in his eyes, this wasn't a one-off moment of madness. It was another warning sign in a pattern that keeps repeating. According to Nelson, Whyte is stacking mistake on top of mistake, and the airport clash was simply the latest example of it. The problem isn't just the situation, it's the mindset behind it. The decision-making is slipping, the discipline is fading, and the temper is running wild. And that's what makes it so embarrassing. Moses didn't have to swing, didn't have to argue, didn't have to escalate anything. He stayed calm, and Whyte still managed to ruin his own image in public. In the end, Nelson's message was clear. Whyte didn't get exposed by Moses. He exposed himself.
He's done this morning, man. To make the way how he's done it, on the morning of a fight, it's just wrong. It's dangerous.
And not long after that, Eddie Hearn came back with another response. And this time, it made it crystal clear where his respect is leaning now. Hearn didn't try to dress it up or hide what everyone was already thinking. The doubts around Dillian Whyte weren't new. Even before the airport drama, people were already questioning his conditioning, his mindset, and whether he's still locked in the way he used to be. But what really stood out was how strongly Eddie spoke about Moses, that he openly gave Moses major credit, saying he looks like someone special. Someone already prepared to step into real tests against top-level opponents. And by comparison, Dillian didn't come across like the dangerous heavyweight fans once feared. He came across like a fighter far removed from that version of himself. That's why the airport incident mattered so much that IT wasn't just a bad moment caught on camera. It felt like confirmation, a public breakdown that turned whispers into headlines. Moses walked away with more respect than ever, while Dillian walked away looking worse than before. And after Hearn's comments, the message was obvious. One man is rising, and the other is being left behind.
No, but I didn't know what kind of shape Dillian would be in or what kind of resistance he'd have. But you can't take anything away from Moses. I mean, he's a very special fighter, but now it's time to see him in with someone live and active and durable in their prime.
Derek Chisora's blunt reaction only made the whole situation look even worse for Dillian Whyte. His message was simple, but it landed hard. Whyte has been moving the wrong way for a long time. Because when that airport moment happened, it wasn't professionalism we saw. It wasn't composure. It was a fighter snapping in public, like someone who's losing control of himself, that a real fighter doesn't prove toughness through chaos. He proves it through discipline, respect, and staying sharp when it matters. But Whyte let anger take the steering wheel, and once that happens, everything falls apart. And that's the clear difference between Moses and Dillian right now. Moses looks like a man who's locked in, hungry, focused, and building towards something serious. Whyte looks like someone who's distracted, reckless, and spiraling in the worst way. You don't convince people you're dangerous by starting fights in an airport. That's not intimidation. That's insecurity. And the coldest part of all? Moses didn't even need to throw a punch back. His calmness exposed everything.
Going off the scale of body show, you're a liar and all this for no reason. And what happened now?
And Dave Caldwell zoomed out and made the consequences crystal clear. This airport incident could leave real damage on Dillian Whyte's career. Caldwell didn't sugarcoat it at all. In his eyes, Whyte going after Moses wasn't just a bad moment. It looked like the beginning of the end. The outburst didn't feel calculated or tough. It felt pointless and panicked, like something coming from a fighter who knows the clock is ticking. Because when someone loses their temper in public, especially in a place like an airport where control matters most, it sends a message that goes beyond boxing. It suggests the fighter isn't just slipping in the ring. He's slipping mentally too. And the worst part for Whyte is that Moses didn't even have to respond. He stayed calm, and that calmness made Whyte look even worse. Whyte basically ruined his own reputation in real time. This wasn't a big moment for Dillian. It was the kind of scene that becomes a symbol, a low point that confirms what people have quietly been worried about for a while now.
It's way too much for him, and it's going to be, quite a nasty ending for him, a nasty ending to a career. I was worried for Dillian going into that this would be that fight, and it was. I mean, that. You don't get it can't be any worse than that to punctuate a career, to end a career.
Trash talk is normal in this sport, but Dillian took it out of the ring and turned it into real-world chaos. In the worst setting possible, at the worst time possible. This wasn't a fight week shove. It wasn't a sanctioned moment. It was frustration spilling over in public. And that's what makes it ugly. Moses handled the situation like a pro, calm, composed, and unbothered. Meanwhile, Whyte did the opposite. He damaged his own name in front of cameras, fans, and everyone watching. Airports are supposed to be places where careers take off. But for Dillian, that scene looked like the opposite. Not an arrival, a slow exit. Every reckless move pushing him closer to being remembered for the wrong reasons.
You come to a field here, you found off a field. No matter what picture you take, it means nothing. Actually, I have my face like it. I'm a founder.
I've seen on his social media, it's very unsafe. It's down to the British boxing body control to actually, there's an issue there. And the boxing, in the worst case scenario, God forbid, that'll show, and it put the British Board of Control under pressure.
Dillian Whyte reportedly went after Moses Itauma at the airport, and the whole thing was honestly embarrassing. Moses looked completely calm, just minding his business, and somehow it still got turned into a messy, low-level confrontation. That wasn't toughness, it was insecurity. All it showed is that Whyte's frustration spills over the second someone composed and disciplined is standing right in front of him.
And I'm not surprised.
Does that cross the line, do you think?
Yeah, it does. Listen, the presser was good. It was a great presser, back and forth, poking each other, but not too far. But once you get physical and you touch a man's face, then...
And Billy Nelson cuts straight to the core, pointing out how Whyte's actions are now hurting him more than anyone else. After that airport incident, Nelson's frustration was clear. Who really wants to watch Whyte fight now? His reputation is barely holding together, and instead of proving himself inside the ring, he's making headlines for lashing out at Moses in public. Nelson's assessment was sharp. Whyte's reckless behavior has diminished his own value. Moses, on the other hand, is rising, calm, and composed, while Dillian looks like a fighter desperately clinging to relevance through chaos. That airport outburst didn't scare Moses, it humiliated Whyte, leaving fans wondering if he even deserves another opportunity at the top.
So that fight's dead in the water, you think, Dillian Whyte?
We'll never fight them. I wouldn't give Dillian Whyte a wage to fight him after his ridiculous comments that he's made.
And Derek Chisora, someone who knows Dillian inside and out, laid bare just how pointless the entire episode was. Chisora's point was clear. Even those closest to Whyte are struggling to make sense of his decisions. The airport confrontation with Moses wasn't calculated or impressive. It was pure frustration masquerading as aggression. When Chisora joked about Moses not putting him out too badly, the underlying message was obvious. The writing is already on the wall to end this scenario. Moses has everything on his side: skill, composure, and respect. Whyte, meanwhile, only has chaos, excuses, and a reputation that's eroding fast. That airport incident didn't intimidate Moses. If anything, it proved that Whyte is walking straight into trouble, a fighter undone by his own loss of control.
I was like, listen, I don't know why you're taking that fight, for what reason. And he goes, oh, he don't care, my friend, so I was like, listen, just be careful. And I messaged Moses, I'm like, Moses, just fight him, but don't put him to sleep that badly, basically.
What unfolded at the airport wasn't just a fight, it was a defining moment. Dillian Whyte losing his temper and attacking Moses Itauma in public made one thing very clear. The gap between these two fighters isn't just physical. It's mental. On one side, Moses stayed composed, confident, and steady, showing the traits of someone on the rise. On the other, Whyte's actions were erratic, desperate, and revealing cracks in his armor. Airports usually mark beginnings, but for Whyte, this scene felt like a career crossroads, a moment louder than any defeat inside the ring. Moses didn't even need to respond with a punch. His calmness allowed Whyte to dig his own hole, proving the difference between a fighter ascending and one sliding downhill. Everyone saw it, fans, promoters, the entire boxing world. The mental advantage has shifted, and it's undeniable that if Whyte hoped his chaos would unsettle Moses, it had the opposite effect. It exposed him completely. Now the stakes are bigger than ever. If Whyte somehow bounces back, it's just a delay in the inevitable. But if Moses performs as expected, this airport incident becomes a foreshadowing. The day Whyte lost control before losing the fight, this isn't just about punches. It's about mindset, legacy, and who can handle the pressure when the lights shine brightest. Which side are you on? Was this the start of Whyte's decline, or Moses's rise to prominence? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let's break it down.